Welcome back, everybody. There are 5 characteristics that we can use to describe data. Those 5 characteristics are mean, median, mode, standard deviation, and variance. In part 1 of this video, which is right now, we will do mean, median, and mode. Part 2, we'll talk about standard deviation and variance. All right, so mean, median, and mode are called measures of central tendency, hence the title of the video. All right, so let's go through, let's talk about all 3 of them. So the mean is the sum of all the values divided by the number of values. And there's some notation you need to be aware of. So first of all, this is called mu, Greek letter mu. And mu is the mean of the population. So anytime we're talking about mean of a population, we will utilize mu to represent that. If we're talking about mean, the mean of a sample, it's going to be x bar. So all right. So let's do a quick example. So I have, okay, the data represents a sample of flight prices to Cancun. All right, and here are the flight prices. So they are in dollars, of course. 872, 432, 397, 427, 388, 782, and 397. All right, so when we're doing so we want to find the mean. All right, and when we find the mean, we're going to use x bar, and we're going to add up 872 plus 432 plus 397 plus 427 plus 388 plus 782 plus 397. And we're going to divide that whole thing by 7 because that is the number of prices in our sample. So why don't you take a moment, pause the video, do the calculation, and we'll talk about the answer on the back end. All right, hopefully you paused the video, did the calculation. So I got x bar to equal 572, that is a bad 7.90. All right, and question very commonly asked is, where do you round to? In this case, the context of the problem dictates where we round. Because it's dollars and cents, we are going to round to the hundredths. We would not say 570, hang on, $572.9. That would be weird. We would say $572.90. So the context of the problem in this case dictated where we rounded to. All right. If we had grouped data, meaning that we took data and we put it into what we call a frequency distribution, we would have class boundaries. We would have frequency. E-N-C-Y, we would have frequency. And let's say we said 5.5 to 10.5, 10.5 to 15.5. $20.5 to $25.5. Our class boundaries very often will have uniform, well, they always will have uniform widths. So I got 2 more to do, or 3 more to do, 25.5 to 30.5, 30.5 to 35.5. And last but not least, 35.5 to 40.5. And the reason we use a frequency distribution is we could say 1 value falls in that class boundary, 2 falls in this one, 3 falls in this one, 5 falls in that one, 4, 3, and 2. And what you'll notice is here is that we have like 20 values here, but we don't necessarily have to list all 20 values. We just know that they are in those boundaries. So we lose the actual value, but we're able to group the data in a more aesthetically pleasing fashion. Now, if I wanted to get the mean for this data, x bar, I would have to do something a little bit different. I couldn't add up all the values because I don't know what the values are. But what I can do is I can add up the frequency times xm means midpoint and divide that by the number of values. When we're talking about the midpoint, we're talking about the midpoint of the class boundaries. So I'm going to put another column for xm. And then I'm going to put another column for f times xm. Because very often, keeping your data organized is a very big key to success. So I'm going to ask you to pause the video at this point, and I want you to do the midpoint of all the class boundaries, and then I want you to do the frequency times the midpoint. And we'll check our answers on the back end. All right, we're back. And these are the values that you should have in your chart. Take a look, make sure that they are the same values that I have. Because if there is a single mistake in your chart, then your values just won't match up. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add up our frequencies because that is going to be our n. N is the total number of values that we have. When we add up the frequencies, so I get the sum of my f's, that is going to equal 20. and it should equal 20 for you as well. All right. The next thing we're going to add up is we're going to add up our frequency times our midpoint. All right. I'm just going to scroll down a little bit just to get a little bit more room. But if I add up my frequency times my midpoint, I get 490. And you feel free to check my work, make sure it is 490. But notice here, all right, I just got my top value in my formula and my bottom value in my formula. So your formula, basically, we can substitute in those two values. So I get x bar equals 490 divided by 20. And why don't you do that quick calculation, and we'll check our answers on the back end. All right, see you soon. All right, I get 24.5. And if I told you, I did not tell you that, but if I told you that this was the data for the miles that I ran last month, I could get the average of 24.5 miles. I definitely want to see the labels when appropriate, all right? Most of the problems that you're going to get in statistics are all going to be attached to something real, all right? So please do not forget about those labels. I find them quite important. All right, so the next measure of central tendency is called the median, all right? And the median is considered the middle of your data. Some people say the middle value of your data. I like to say the middle of your data because it's not necessarily always a value in your data. All right, the symbol for median that's most commonly used is MD. I think if you use that symbol, pretty much everybody would know that you were talking about median. All right, and if there's an odd number of values in your set, the median is going to be one of your values. However, if there's an even number of data values in your set, the median, basically you're going to take the two middle values and just get the average, and that will be your median. So let's go back to our data on flight prices. All right. So the first thing you want to do is you want to put your values in order. Put your values in ascending order. So I'm going to put those values in order for us. 388, 397, 397, 427, 432, 782, and 872. Not an especially big set of data, but I'm going to show you what I would do if it was a very large set of data. All right. Basically, I use a very straightforward method. I'll cross out the front and then the back, front, then the back, the front, then the back. And what am I left with? I'm left with a single middle value, and I'm just going to count them to make sure that this is an odd number of values. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I got 7 values, which means my median is going to be $427. That's the median price of the flight to Cancun. All right. Again, probably for this particular data set, you could say, well, I'll count in 3 from the left and 3 from the right and work your way in. But I will tell you that probably in your homework and definitely on your exam, you might have a data set of 20, 30 values where you can't do that so easily. I think it's a pretty straightforward method, and people that do it really like it. All right, so the last measure of central tendency is called the mode. Let's talk about the mode for a second. All right, the mode is the value that occurs most often, the data value that occurs most often. All right, now a data set can have one mode. It could have no mode, or it could be multimodal. Meaning it could have more than one mode. However many values occur the most often, there's your mode. All right, if all the values occur once, I would consider that no mode. All right, so we're going to find the mode of signing bonuses of NFL players. These bonuses are going to be in the millions of dollars. So I'm going to write down our data. So here's our example, right? Again, they're signing bonuses. So it's 18.0, 14.0, 34.5, 10, 11.3, 10, 12.4, and 10. And I think taking an extra moment to put your data in order is really helpful in this case, because it's going to make the mode that much more obvious. So let's put it in order. Let's say it's 10, 10, 10, 11.3, 12.4, 14.0, 18.0, and 34.5. And what we see from here is that right here, I've got 10 occurs 3 times. So what you would say is, yeah, you wouldn't say that, because that has to be a 1. $10 million signing bonus. Is the mode. All right, so that brings part 1 to a close. Mean, median, and mode. There will be some follow-up, there will be some practice, but this is something that you probably have seen before, so hopefully the practice won't be too big of a deal. We'll come back next time with part 2, the measures of variability, standard deviation, variance, and range. Thanks for listening. Talk to you soon.